Welcome to the 2023 Ward 4 City Council candidate debate. I'm Tony Shanella, the editor of Concord, New Hampshire Patch. Thank you so much for being with us. This debate is sponsored by Patch, Concord TV, we're in their studios right now, as well as the New England Take podcast. During the next half an hour or so, we're going to be speaking with two of the candidates running in Ward 4. They'll be representing the ward for 2 years, and one term in 2 years, and they'll be allowed opening and closing statements, and then I'll ask some questions in between. Let's meet our candidates for Ward 4. In alphabetical order, we have Sarah Beauregard, and we have Karen McNamara, the incumbent. Karen, challenger first, okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Sarah, opening statement.
So my name is Sarah Beauregard. I've lived in Concord pretty much my whole life. I went to Concord High for 2 years and then ended up graduating from Proctor Academy. But I've grown up in this community, and my parents have been strongly involved in the community my whole life and kind of instilled that into me. I currently work at the Lawson Group, and I am a business owner here in Concord as well. I do sit on a number of boards within the community as well. I was a board member at the Friends of Whites Park for a number of years. While on that board, I helped organize the Ugly Sweater 5K, and then also was the director of the Winter Carnival there as well. The 5K, all the proceeds went to help rebuild the playground, and hopefully eventually we'll get there to rebuild that playground as well. I actually was one of the kids that was helped design and went to the community build and built that playground a long time ago. I currently sit on the Concord Crush lacrosse board as the treasurer, and I also sit on the Concord High School wrestling booster club as well. I have 4 children who are extremely active in the community and in many aspects of the community. My goal as a parent has always been to set a strong example for my children, and I'm hoping that by running I can make that possible for them.
Excellent. Karen?
Thank you, Tony. And thank you, CCTV, for organizing this event. And thank you, Sarah, for being here. I'm Karen McNamara. I'm your current Ward 4 City Councilor. I hold a master's degree in curriculum and administration, and I've spent 20 years in public education. I've worked as a development director at CCCNH, and I was an online advocate for them. Also, I volunteered at the overnight winter shelter, and I was a tutor with Second Start with the New Americans. Along with serving on CCCNH and Concord Babe Ruth boards, these experiences have taught me about my community, their needs, and working with a diverse group of people. If elected, my priorities will continue to support public safety through recruitment, education, and retention, expanding the tax base with public and non-public partnerships, continuing to create low-income, working-class housing, providing infrastructure for a quality of life, that infrastructure that deals with our clean water, roads, parks, libraries, etc., and fostering a community with a sense of belonging.
Excellent. Thank you. Probably one of the most important things that either of you will have to take on during the next 2 years, as well as your other members of the council after the November election, is a whole lot of new faces. There's going to be at least 4 new city councilors, maybe more, and also the mayor is stepping down after more than a quarter of a century. Jim Boulay, no matter what you think about him, has been praised for holding pretty stable meetings, putting different people, interesting people on boards. So this is really going to be a dynamic change in January, and it may bring instability, and a lot of people are concerned about that. If you're elected, we're going to go with you, Karen, first on this one. If you're reelected, how do you ensure a stable council, stable proceedings, and governance during the next 2 years?
Definitely. Mayor Boulay is going to be a big set of boots to fill. He has just a plethora of wealth and knowledge on city government, and he's always put Concord first and expects the best for Concord. But I think that a new city council will be willing to take on this challenge. I think it's important that we realize with new people comes fresh eyes, and with fresh eyes sometimes comes some new ideas. And I think it's really important that everyone can learn from those new ideas, no matter how long you've been on the council or how new you are. I would like to see the seats on the ethics committee built back in. That's very important. And I think it's important to respect the process, and along with that, one another. We all don't always agree, but it's important to agree and disagree in a professional manner.
Sure.
So,
I'm going to take 15 more seconds. Do you think there's been a lot of unprofessionalism on the council recently, or since the time you've been there? Say in 15 seconds.
I wouldn't say unprofessional, but sometimes I find that people want to call out others, and through calling out, you might hurt public, hurt volunteers, and we just need to look at the positive and push forward with what good things are happening.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sarah, do you have any thoughts about that?
I actually agree with a lot that Karen said. The ethics committee was one of my strong contentions that it needs to be built back in. Really need to have that check and balance with the committee, the council. I think that a new group coming in would be a great thing. I just feel that for me, I work really well with other people and groups, and I know Karen, I've seen you on your council debates, and she does as well. I think that with new people coming in, new ideas, and if we can be adults and work together, really I think it would be a great change for the city. I think that we're going in the right direction.
Let me take 15 seconds too and just ask you kind of a follow-up in the sense from the outside watching in. What do you think? Can you think of one thing that you would like to change beyond the ethics of just having watched the meetings? Is there just one procedural thing or anything that you might want to change if you get elected?
Sometimes the flow of it is difficult. There's a lot of voting, discussion, but sometimes they table them. And I'm not sure exactly when they come back. If it is next month, sometimes I miss it. And I'm like, I know that was tabled, but when did it come back? So just a little bit more clearer on what we're voting on, when things are tabled. I just don't think it sometimes flows quite as well as from an outside perspective.
And I'll say from a press perspective, and I really should be better at it, they give us a month notice for next month's kind of big things. Sometimes you get to it, but sometimes you don't. So it's like, then people go, you did what? I wasn't like, they're like squirrel, right? It just drove by and they didn't know that it happened. And we do have a month's notice on things. So it's, that's a great point. Sarah, we're going to go to you with this one. So housing's been a major issue in the city, but there's been a lot of progress too. I actually have this kind of confirmed. I was using the number of around 3,000 new units as the back of the envelope number, and it actually has been confirmed. It's about 3,000 new units that are either scheduled or planned or being discussed that could be built in the next 5 to 3 years, maybe 7, depending on how approvals go. Concord has become a very popular place, but that might not be enough to take care of everybody. What do you think in the next 2 years you can do to tackle the housing problem?
So as a landlord, some of our housing problem is we just bought a property, we've renovating it. Some of our problem is zoning. We're having a hard time with getting permits for things. The amount of money you have to pay for permits it's excessive, and the steps you have to jump through, it's difficult. So I'm not sure how realistic it is for those amount of apartments or housing to actually be done in 5 years with our zoning and with the procedures that we have in place now. So I do hope that we can grow within Concord with the apartments and everything, but it's definitely a struggle to actually build and have those builders come in and build at a cost that works.
Yeah.
Like you had said, Tony, the city has done a lot. 3,000 new housing units coming in. It's not going to be enough, and it's not going to solve the problem. But I think we need to look to partnerships, private and public partnerships, to make things work. And we have to look at density. People say, why aren't you just building more housing? Well, you have to look at the density because you can't harm the quality of life that we have. It would just blow up. So looking at the railway. That was a good area, had a lot of density, and they are starting to take applications right now out on Loudon Road. But the city did look at studying the fees, and they've made some changes, and they're always going back to look at that to make it easier and more accessible. So I think just moving forward, and especially continuing those public and private partnerships, because we can't do it all.
I'll just say as an editorial comment, just for either of you, whoever is elected, and I frankly should have said this too, I would like to see it so that the ordinary person who wants to do things has a lot easier time.
Yeah.
Mr. Uchida, who used to go to all the planning board and ZBA meetings and have the whole thing up, and he was really great at it. He moved away. I think he's educating kids now, but it was like, that's the guy I want to have if I ever have to do something, but I shouldn't have to. If I want a little, if I have a 5-foot setback on something, right? I mean, I shouldn't have to pay $5,000 to get that done. It's like, it's 5 feet, but it really does need a little, tweaking. And I know that the department does that too.
And if you think about the things that are out of the city's control, interest rates have really gone up recently. You probably are feeling this.
Yes.
Along with labor costs, working costs, affordability costs of your staff. So there's a lot of things that aren't in our control right now.
Have you seen, take 15 seconds, have you seen that with interest rates and things like that?
Yes.
It's a real pickle,
and as owning the company, you have like business interest rates. Well, they're kind of in there, you're locked in for 5 years. They're gonna, we're at our 5-year mark and we're jumping from 3 now to 7 to 8%. It's kind of, so unfortunately with that, we have to raise our rent to cover that extra expense or our extra costs on things like trying to put a new driveway in, and we're going through permitting, and permitting right now is $500, but we have 3 more steps, and those are going to cost another additional $300 to get a permit.
Yeah.
So at what point do we say we just can't do it?
Sure. One of the strengths of the mayor and the current council, and actually several councils now, has been that the annual tax rate increase has been kept around 3%. This last year it was a little less than 4%. However, in the next, I think it's going to be around fiscal 2025, there is a new solid waste contract. It could increase the annual rate by 5 to 8%. There may or could be some personal savings depending on what happens with the pay-as-you-throw program. But property taxes are going to probably go up, and the people are already paying the highest taxes that they've ever paid in the city, both due to the city and school, which are completely separate. Renters also pay that indirectly. Karen, what would you do to tackle that problem directly?
Are you talking about the waste, or are you talking about economic development as a whole?
No, we can get to economic development later. How do you contain the tax rate when you know there's this big solid waste thing coming up that's going to just be sticker shock to people?
Well, the one thing that we have discovered over the last 10 years is this city has saved a lot of money, and we haven't been paying a high ticket price. But we are going to see some increase. Some of the things, we've been discussing the food diversion program lately in our SWAC, and one thing about that is we've got 2 companies who came to talk to us, and they're talking about they've already pulled 47% out of their garbage waste, which is saving money for their cities, and they want to expand. We have Grapponi Conference Center using them, we have Tucker's using them. So talking about ways to divert food waste from our garbage, but finding a place for that is another situation. We also talked a lot about how are we going to start educating our community. We've talked about purple bags, and we know the purpose behind them was to reduce our waste, but we need to do more educating, get schools involved, do programs with schools, get the hospitals involved, so that we are practicing reduce, recycle, and reuse.
Cool. Karen? I'm sorry. Sarah?
So I do agree with, we, as a household, for our household, we are strong recyclers. I've always wanted to compost. Unfortunately, living in directly downtown, Ward 4 is very difficult to compost. Our neighbors do it. They do a great job at it. It's just we don't have the space to compost. But with that being said, the co-op opened up their compost bins again. Last year, I believe, they had it open that you could bring your compost to them. But I think more programs like that in the area would help with the cost of, and just, again, the city used to send out flyers about how to, do your yard work, clean up like that. It'd be nice to have kind of like those type of flyers. What can be recycled? What can be compost? Where you can drop off, compost for even yard waste. Things like that, I think, could help with the community and help with that aspect.
Sure. Sarah, we'll go with you for this one. Give the voters 3 new economic development ideas that you would champion to increase the tax base. So if you have them, if you have 3 ideas.
I don't.
You don't? Okay. All right. Karen?
There's going to be some huge changes in Ward 4. When the state takes down the Department of Justice and the parking lot, that's really going to open up Store Street. And I'd like to see what we can do with that. There's been talk about a winter's market to get people down there to provide space, more business for those who live here. A food truck alley would be great, and would also open up height. We can continue to build up and do murals, artwork. Another thing is the mall. 20 years ago, the mall was worth $80 million. It is now worth about $10 million. And if we can bring in housing, we can bring in some retail, along with quality of life, I'd like to see us put that back up to 80 and maybe even higher, because it would be a better environment.
Cool. During the last 10 years or so, or probably about 12 since the time I started doing patch, crime has really escalated in the city. And it's been really about the last 10 years, right around when heroin started to become very popular, that it really started to go up. I noticed it when I was doing, arrest logs. There'd be like 15 or 20 arrests a week, and then there's 40, and now there's 50 or 60. But crimes by people who are homeless have really exploded in the last few years, to the point where they're more than 20% of the arrests in 2022. Many of these charges were not frivolous. They were drug dealing, assaults, arson, and even murders. A number of residents of the city are very frustrated with all of the camps that are going on, that they have to pay to have the camps cleaned up because they're as bad as hazardous waste dumps, and firefighters don't want to go into some of these camps because they're booby-trapped and they have exploding canisters and other issues. You're civic leaders, you're going to be volunteers, you get a small stipend, but you're the first people on the front lines for the resident who has a camp that can't get rid of these people on their private property. What more can you and or the council do to address this problem? And we'll go with Karen this time.
I think the first thing we need to do is we need to support Concord PD. We're already down about 19 officers, and over the years they've been doing more and more social, emotional support with our communities. So I think hiring a new social worker to support our unhoused population while supporting the police is one excellent thing that we should be doing. And there's been a lot more collaboration between the county, between CAP, between the Concord Coalition. Concord Coalition has been boots on the ground, literally, to connect people with services, and that's where it's at, connecting people with the services they need. People are barely getting by with their rent, to pay for food, to pay for heat. They need to be connected with services who can help support them before they're unhoused. That's the biggest key, is prevention. But again, it's multifaceted. There's no one answer. And our biggest challenge, like you were alluding to, is our chronic homeless. And sometimes that group of people, they don't want assistance. We can't force them into housing. We can't force them into rehabilitation. And so I think another thing that we can do as citizens is we need to encourage people to call their state reps. We need to ask them, what are you doing to help our communities with this problem?
Sure, bail reform could be, one of those things that they keep almost fixing, right, and it's always a few votes short. Sarah, any thoughts?
Very similar. It's more funding for the police. I have a little different stance on the homeless, but I think that if they do want help, we have some services that are out there. I do know that with tenants, there are a lot of services out there for tenants, and we have several that have reached out and are using those services, and it's great to see them using those services. As the cleanup is expensive, we've gone through it with tenants that have left a lot of waste. And it's difficult to, as a landlord, to kind of deal with the cleanup, the aftermath of it. I do think that the Homeless Coalition could possibly do a little bit more, maybe a little bit more restructuring, in sense that reaching out to the community a little bit more. I know that just from knowing a few people that I know a little bit about it, but unfortunately sometimes it's not, I don't see everything that's going on. I just don't think they're reaching the public like they could be.
The city has spent about $140,000 on designing a new multi-million-dollar clubhouse for the Beaver Meadow Golf Course. A major tenant who was set to lease space in the building has dropped out. I guess that just happened this week or in the last couple of weeks. So now the city is tweaking the design. Some people think it's extravagant to have a golf course, never mind a new clubhouse, and others think it's a great community asset and recreational facility like pools and parks. Sarah, where do you come down on the golf club house improvement issue?
I think it could be maybe some renovations could be done, and then this could be pushed off a little bit longer. I don't think it's particularly necessary, seeing how we have a brand new community center. I don't think that our parks and recs, our park and rec department are really utilized the best that they could be. White's Park has a great new little, I can't think of it, skate house, yes, and new splash pad. And the skate house, it can be rented and the facilities can be used. I don't think they're utilized enough. I don't think we're drawing attention to that. And we have a ton of local parks. I think if we maybe draw more attention to those local parks and maybe table the golf course for a little bit, even maybe if we want to do that, maybe kind of look at the grounds and see if we can put something else in there, kind of bring more community events into it, maybe not putting it all into a clubhouse.
Karen?
I heard a constituent say, I just want to be able to go out there and have a cup of coffee. And right now, they can't even have a cup of coffee. And we've dealt with sewer backup. The golf course is more than just used during the summertime for golf. To me, it is a year-round ski, golf, community center. People have birthday parties, there's weddings. You've got Concord High cross-country team is taking advantage of, and going to be using it in the winter time, and hopefully they're going to get new skis to share with the community. You've got to fix something that's broken. We've got a great gem out there as a golf course. It's used year-round. They've got someone doing their kitchen now. It's something that everyone could use, and it's multi-purpose. So I think that we really need to continue moving forward, because it would be horrible to lose something, because think of the population going there instead of going to another venue. It would tie up, and you may not get that wedding venue space. So I definitely think we should be continuing to go ahead with it.
Great. Last question, we'll start with Karen this time, and then we'll go to closing statements. There was discussion earlier this year about paying for childcare, stipends for attending meetings, even travel expenses for city councilors, board members, and also attendees of meetings. Let's stick with just councilors for a second. I think everybody pretty much agrees that the city shouldn't pay for daycare or travel expenses for city councilors, but maybe city councilors should be paid more than their annual stipend to make up for that cost. Do you think your stipend should be increased if reelected, and how much should it be?
No, I don't. My service to my community is basically volunteer service. My stipend, I usually give back to my favorite organizations. So no, I don't think it should be raised. And do you want to know how I feel about the $50? Is that what you're asking? Yeah.
You can answer that question if you like. Although that's separate. I mean,
okay.
That could be tens of thousands of dollars if we paid every person on a board.
And you know,
But if you don't have a car and you are elected as a city councilor and you need to do Ubers, instead of maybe getting 1,000, you should get $2,000 so the person who doesn't have a car can take the Uber to the meetings.
but also, when you join committees, every time a new person comes to your committee or it's a new election session, you start up, the committees are very cordial. Everyone talks about what time of the day is best for you. Is there a day of the week that's better? Evenings, afternoons? And usually the meeting date changes with every meeting. And prior to that meeting, they send out an email, which day, which time works best for you. So I think we collaborate really well to make sure that the meeting times works for everyone.
Great. Sarah, any thoughts?
I don't think there should be any increase on stipends at all. I'm in agreement with Karen. I do a lot of community work, and I don't think that it's something that we should. I don't even think it should be on the table, to be honest with you. And I think that we have a strong community, and if you can't find the childcare, then there should be other options. I mean, definitely, I didn't realize that was an issue for the city councilors. So yes. I know that I have a strong community behind me, family, friends that can all help out. So hopefully others have that as well in our community.
Great. We're going to go to closing statements now. Karen,
Sure.
have at it. 1 minute.
Okay. Sorry there, Tony. If elected, I will continue to support you and be your voice for Ward 4. Working on 7 committees and finding solutions to your questions has taught me so much. Why would you not want to continue this momentum? I encourage you all to get out and vote on November 7th. Please vote for me, Karen McNamara, to continue to serve as your city councilor. See you on November 7th at Green Street.
Excellent. Sarah?
I hope you guys come out and vote for me as well, or for me, sorry. And I do have some strong issues that I'd love to talk to you about. You can always message me on my social media accounts. I would love to talk to you about Ward 4. It's a great ward, and I hope to represent you for it. And hopefully see you on November 7th as well.
Excellent. Thank you. So those are your 2 Ward 4 candidates. Again, election day is Tuesday, November 7th. We'll have a voter's guide up on Patch with all of their candidate profiles and other stories and information. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The new polling location for Ward 4 is the Green Street Community Center, 37 Green Street, I think it is. But it's in between City Hall and the police station where Ward 5 voters used to vote. For Concord TV, the New England Take, and Patch, I'm Tony Shanella. Thanks again for being with us.